Welcome back. We're heading to the politics. Now, slowly we're counting down to the NDC's manifesto launch, dubbed the People's Manifesto. In the next few minutes, members of our political team will be bringing you in-depth analysis. But here on the show, we gauge the mood of voters. What are your expectations? And what will inform your vote? We'll also be live in town to speak with some of you. First, though, we'll take a look at some of the promises that the flag bearer of the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, has been making. Let's take a look at 20 of those promises. Okay, so first of all, pay all customers of the collapsed financial institutions whose monies are locked up in full and restore indigenous Ghanaian participation in the financial sector. That's promise number one. Number two, he's promising to reduce the size of government by at least 40 ministers to reduce government expenditure and channel those resources into the productive sectors of the economy for the benefit of Ghanaians. Of course, these are promises that you can break down further. Let's take a look at promise number three. He's talking about providing free technical and vocational education, TVET, from the second cycle to tertiary level institutions to build the human resource base of the nation for industrial development, entrepreneurship, and job creation. So, promise number four, to institute a National Apprenticeship Program in line with his vision of rapid industrialization and job creation for the country. He's also promising to scrap the 50% increment in the communication service tax to reduce the cost of telephoning and data. This will reduce the cost of living, he says, and the cost of doing business in this country. Promise number six, to construct a regional hospital for each of the 6 newly created regions and the Western region to improve access to quality and efficient healthcare delivery. Promise number seven, to provide districts without hospitals with fully equipped modern health facilities. Number 8, Mr. Mahama says he will take healthcare to the doorsteps of the people by building a first-of-its-kind Onipa Nia hospital ship and deploy it to provide medical services to the inaccessible and fishing communities on the inland waterways. We'll continue with these promises when Evans Mensah joins me in studio. But with what you've heard so far, are you likely, what is likely to influence your vote? Well, earlier, my colleague Manuel Kranting interacted with some Ghanaians who have been sharing their expectations.
I'm here at the Kwame Nkrumah interchange, trying to gauge the mood of the citizens ahead of the official launch of the manifesto. What are the expectations really? And will these expectations be met by the NDC's manifesto? So I'm going to try to speak to a few people. Thank you so much for speaking to me. What really are your expectations of the NDC's manifesto?
NDC has nothing to give us. NDC has nothing. Because since their 8 years that has passed by, I have not even seen what NDC have done that Ghanaians are happy about it. So as for me, I don't have any good expectation that NDC is bringing out to Ghanaians. But Ghanaians will be happy about their manifesto.
But they say they're going to.
Aside from that, why Okada? They have to request for something better in life more than everybody can buy Okada and hire someone to work with Okada. How Okada? He has to bring new things that people will enjoy and like it. More than this Okada, they are making noise in all over the place. People are Okada. What's Okada?
Okay, if they will realize their mistakes and then correct their mistakes, I think it will be better than accusing the current, sitting president. And for that one, I disagree with them. You know, if you want to move forward, you correct your mistakes. So use your past to correct your current mistake. Present life. So if I've been, I've done a lot of mistakes previously for the past, I have to sit down, work it out, and come when I want to come to power. Then I know that I've corrected my mistakes and coming forward, then I know that these are the things that I have to put in place.
I'm expecting them to just come back to tell us the truth, as in what they did not or they were not able to do before. They are supposed to come and tell us, be able to also convince us that if we trust them or we believe in them, we'll be able to, or they'll be able to get or do whatever we want to do. They promised, especially we the youth, jobs. So we are expecting that when they come, they'll be able to give us the jobs that we need.
Yes. We will compare and contrast, because as of now, the two parties are, telling stories. So what we believe is we are waiting for the NDC manifesto. There we compare and contrast. That's why I use the word in my opinion. Right. In my opinion.
And they should give more employment to unemployed graduates, and yeah, exactly, and to manage the economy for the betterment of Ghana. But they shouldn't stress the promise that they will do this thing just to gain power. They should do the right thing by telling us what they will be able to do. Ghanaians, they want comfort. But if you promise them something you can't do, and you came and the hardship is still going on, and they are not getting work to do, it's not nice.
It's not nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. All the best.
Evans Mensah is head of our political desk. He joins me right now in studio. By the way, the former president has been speaking on his decision to run again. He says, among other things, his decision is informed by the failure of the NPP, as he says, to continue on the path of making the nation less vulnerable and therefore resilient.
In a sense, our manifesto will provide that answer. But it will be a collective answer coming from all the fabulous NDC members, supporters, men and women who participated in its formulation. That's the formulation of the manifesto. In all honesty, I didn't take the decision to run for a second term as president, neither easily nor quickly. I didn't jump into it. I did it out of a sense of urgency after I began to contemplate more and more thoroughly about our vulnerabilities as a nation. No society can be truly resilient in the face of crisis and adversity without a solid economic and social infrastructure. To create sustainable and ever-growing prosperity, something we all deserve, it requires building a robust social and economic infrastructure, one that supports creativity, innovation, and the production of high-value-added products and services. This is precisely why during my presidency, I took aggressive steps to develop and consolidate our healthcare infrastructure, our educational infrastructure, our transport infrastructure, and our digital infrastructure. This is the only way to build a resilient nation. Without creating and consolidating a developed infrastructure, no nation can resist the global shocks that come from time to time. Unfortunately, this current government has refused to continue on the path we started, and therefore failed to make our nation less vulnerable and more resilient in the face of global shocks. Let me give you just one example. Access to electricity in 2012. 69.2% of Ghanaians had access to electricity in 2012. In 2016, when I left office after my first term as president, 79.3% of Ghanaians had access to electricity. That was a 10 percentage points increase in just 4 years. When I left the office, I was confident that a new government will continue from where we left off and deliver probably by now 90%, if not 100%, access to electricity. That is over these last four years. However, under this administration, the NPP government has increased overall access to electricity from 79.3% to only 82.3%, a mere 3 percentage points increase in 4 years. It is our sacred mission to turn Ghana into an advanced nation as soon as possible, and it is our moral obligation to be bold and to aim for greatness. Good enough is no longer good enough. To prosper and thrive, we need fundamental change. We need to set our standards and expectations far higher than good enough. If we settle for good enough, we settle for a slow death of our very soul and our pride as a country. I ran for president because I want to leave a legacy, a solid infrastructure with 100% access for all in all sectors. With this legacy, we can build a truly developed Ghana on a par with other middle-level nations or advanced nations. I know how to do it. I've been part of it already and already accomplished a lot in this area. And since I know how to do it and the current government doesn't, I feel I have a moral duty to ask for a second term.
So that's Mr. Mahama there. It's all about what he believes is the NDC's alternative to a governing NPP. You make your judgment and you take your own decisions. But I have here in studio Evans Mensah, head of our political desk. Evans has a message for you, and then we'll go through the alternatives that the NDC is presenting. Evans, it's good to have you. What's the message for our audience? Always delighted to be on the show with you, Gifty. I mean, so we were built to start at 4 with the coverage of the NDC Manifesto launch, but the team on the ground says we are better off starting later than that because they've seen the groundwork, and there's no indication that the 5 o'clock that the party had originally advertised will be on it. And that's the thing with political events. It's so fluid with the time. And so we're going to start at 5 instead, and build into it. I mean, the communication line that we should expect by 6 or 6:30, the program itself should be on the road. We have a team on the ground. MF Aflao, Daniel Dadzi, Parker Wilson, who are going to bring us the view from the ground itself. And of course, we have a team here, myself, Wing Singh, Imani, will also help us with some of the analysis. And so, yes, we're starting at 5, and the party tell us that they anticipate that they will end at 9 p.m. So, yeah, it's going to be a long night. So when they tell you it's 9, you probably add an extra hour to it. When they tell you it's 5, you probably add an extra hour. So it's always either late or very early. I mean, so that's what we are. Okay, so it's 4 o'clock. Obviously, you've checked your time, and you know it's 4 o'clock, and we're expecting to see the beginning of the NDC Manifesto launch right here, as had been advertised. As you know, there's been some changes. So, but 4 o'clock, you know, between 4 and 5, it's just a few minutes, trust me. True. So Evans is here, and let's go through again the promises that Mr. Mahama has been making. I took you up until promise number 8. On number 9, he's looking to construct 2 new international standard infectious diseases centers and 2 additional international research centers. Since you're here, Evans, I'd like for you to speak. I mean, that's an interesting one. Remember that the NPP and that this current government has also promised something similar to build an infectious disease, I think, in every region as part of the manifesto promise going forward. Obviously because of COVID-19. Of course. And so you see the parallels. But LA, you talked about their promise to build hospitals, 6 new hospitals in the 6 newly created regions. The NPP has a similar one. So already you're seeing the contest of ideas and trying to win over voters like yourself. Which brings to mind, you know, a comment that John Boydu made at the manifesto launch of for the NPP themselves. He says that the NDC have not launched their manifesto because they're waiting to copy them. Well, I mean, the thing is, every election year, there's always this accusation that somebody stole somebody. Yeah, there's always that. I mean, and depending on who launches it first. I remember I think it got to a head in 2016 or 2012, where the one party's manifesto was supposed to be Christian, people matter, you matter. Yes, I think it was 2016. 2016. And the NPP has said that, they claim they said that, and then the NDC launched theirs first, and they named it People Who Matter, and it became a big deal. And that someone said, you stole that from us. You know, I mean, so same we're seeing now, but once you launch it first, the second person obviously has an advantage, because you can see, they've listened to all our criticism and analysis. Exactly. They can tweak theirs to make sure that they don't get the same backlash. I mean, look, it's just politics. It's just politics. And I think that for the opposition, you always have an advantage in some of these cases, I guess. But let's take a look at the promises, the remaining of those promises. Promise number 10 is to abolish the double track system of the secondary education through an emergency and massive infrastructural That's one of the most controversial ones. Exactly. I mean, because Mahama said he would do this immediately he comes in, but the question always is, if you do it immediately you come in, what happens to the excess number of students you will have on your hands? Because he says he will build infrastructure, but it doesn't take a day to do infrastructure; it takes months. So what will he do if you abolish the double track system? What will you do with the excess number of students that you have on your hands immediately? That double track system. That for me is one of the areas that I'm still waiting to hear some answers on. I think that the double track system has been, has had its own criticism over the period. People have said that the free SHS is good, but the double track system makes it difficult. Yes, it's true. In fact, there is a document that Send Ghana had put together called the People's Manifesto. They travel around the country
people's youth together. In that document, when you read it, the majority of the people they surveyed across the country said they like the free SHS, but they don't like the double track system. And so that is clearly an issue that reflected.
It's a very interesting area to navigate, and you see the NDC doing a lot with that little provision there. But we'll see how it goes. Let's take you to promise number 11: to establish a university or university campuses in each of the 6 newly created regions. So it looks like there's a lot of focus on the newly created regions.
You have to remember that they are they were not there before, so they're going to have a bigger say, a fresh say in who wins the elections. And so you need to be targeting these new regions to see who, because with the 10 regions, we know how they voted before, right? But these new regions, nobody quite is sure how they're going to vote this year. I mean, you can guess.
But there has been, exactly. There's been, you could call them conspiracy theories.
You can guess,
about
but
the
it will just be a guess.
Themselves.
The real poll is what happens on December 7th. And so you don't want to take it for granted. And that is why I guess there's a lot of targeting.
Yeah. And of course, this is a group of people as well who, had the hope of becoming a region because they believe that then they will own the development of the particular
And so if you're
areas.
saying you're going to bring campuses to them, telling them that I'm going to bring you development.
And give you the sovereignty, so to speak, that you require. But Evans, we'll come back to the rest of the promises and talk briefly about them. The NDC have said that this manifesto is people-centered. So we want to hear from you. Manuel Panting is around Kokomlemle talking to some people. Let's go to him live. Manuel.
Hi, Gifty.
You hear me and you have some people ready to share what their thoughts are with us. Let's go ahead.
Well, definitely. So, I mean, Kokomlemle, and as we build up to the official launch of the NDC's manifesto later tonight, in fact, a number of people have been expressing their opinions and really their expectations. Indeed, a lot of promises have already been thrown around with people trying to sift through and pick out, the real ones from the chaff. And so I'm here at Kokomlemle trying to get a few people to react to the promises that have thus far come through, and in fact whether or not they are looking that some of these promises are, as it were, properly incorporated and maybe institutionalized going into the manifesto of the NDC. These gentlemen are here trying to be busy, and while I waste some time, I'm here to talk to them. Good evening. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak to us. Well, I'm sure that you might have already heard that the NDC is launching its manifesto later tonight. Particularly for yourself, what are some of the things that you're expecting?
Okay, I am expecting good things from them, but I heard when they come, they will abolish the double track system. Yeah, as for that one, I don't think it's a good promise, because if you abolish the double track system, you are not a magician, so there is no way you can command schools to be at everywhere. It will take time before you can cover all the schools. It is the same thing this MPP government is doing. So if you tell me you abolish the double track system, what it means is that if you come, you abolish the free SHS. So I don't want them to go there at all. But
they've made a point that they are going to maintain the free SHS and then invest about $10 billion in infrastructure. That's what they call the big push, so that they get more infrastructure to be able to accommodate the students without having to do double track. That's their point.
That if they are not going to abolish the free SHS and they are going to maintain, it's good. It's good. But if you want to do so, don't say you abolish the double track, because it is the numbers that brought the double track system. So if you say you will continue and doing it gradually, you get there. But if you say when you come, you abolish the double track system immediately, that one, I see it as a deceit. So that expectation, I'm not expecting them to, be in that.
So a really critical point that you make, you talk about the feasibility of abolishing the double track, given the numbers that you have. You think that they are only, building castles in the end, trying to throw dust into your eyes. That's a point that you're making. I'll come to you very shortly and then talk to you also. But they make a point that they are going to embark on what they call Operation Sting. And so to prosecute all appointees who are, corrupt and are caught in corrupt activities. But they've been in power for some time. I'm sure you might have experienced the John Mahama administration while he was in power. He wants to promise that he will do better in terms of corruption. Your reaction?
As for corruption, it is the same thing they said when MPP was power during Kufuor regime. They accused a lot of the MPP ministers that they are corrupt. But when they came to power, they sent close to 15 people to court. But none of them was jailed. So I see it like Ghana here. If you want to come to power, what you have to do is to, tag people with corruption. If you tag people with corruption, that will make you win election. That's why they're doing so. Because when they come, I don't think the same thing will happen as it's happening during the Mills Mama administration. And secondary, if you want to know who is corrupt between MPP and NDC, there is no way NDC can say we have MPP minister in jail as we speak now. But there are a lot of NDC ministers who has been in jail. So I don't see why they keep on talk about corruption.
So you don't think that the NPP is corrupt at all?
If somebody is corrupt, you have to come with evidence. If you don't have evidence, it's just mere talk.
I'll try to come back to you.
Facts are established at court.
In court, definitely.
Yeah. So if you cannot establish your fact at court, how can you say somebody is corrupt?
Great. Great, thank you. So I'll try to come back to you, and then interesting point he's making there that the NDC is unable to, as it were, establish any concrete, case of corruption against the NPP. And so for him, Operation Stink is also really just a ruse. But let me speak to this gentleman. Well, the NDC says that they're going to create over 1 million jobs if they win power. What will be your reactions to that?
I think they have said it. So sometimes we will give them the benefit of the doubt to watch what they can do. So sometimes coming to power is not in our own will. It is by the will of God. So when they come, what they have said, that is what we will expect from them. So sometimes we will hold them accountable of what they have uttered, that, okay, this is what we will do. And at the end, they fail to do. So sometimes you can say something, but at the end, you fail to do.
You can say something, but at the end of the day, you fail to do it. There's a point that people make about over-promising. So that because somebody wants to cling onto power, they promise heaven and earth, things that are not even, tenable within the circumstances. Do you sense anything, like that, in a sense of over-promising so far with the things that you've heard from the NDC?
Yeah, some of their promises are not relevant in the sense that in our country...
Well, example of the irrelevant promises.
Build, okay, let's say the Okada promise doesn't make sense at all, because the Okada itself is not making our country nice, and the accident and, let's say, the life taken in it is very high. The risk is very high. So for them to legalize Okada to become part of our transport, I don't think is a relevant promise.
Great. So he's saying that he doesn't think that the Okada promise by the NDC is relevant, well, in his own words. I'm trying to speak to a few more people here and get their own reactions. My boss, I'm sure that you've been hearing the conversation. Someone says that Okada promise is not relevant. Somebody says that they are deceiving us in terms of corruption fight and so on. What is your own expectation?
To me, the mihun is once we more power, we can woman some the but we more nya power ni we and yes I know more ye. MPP ni NDC more the yet for no ya come AD agoro. Or more power no be can some the ya to more we no be this way a different thing altogether.
But he makes a point that both the NDC and the NPP, as it were, dilly-dally with the minds of the people, so that they want to cling onto power, they promise heaven and earth, but when they get into the corridors of power, they behave just as they want. But I want to find out what that means for he as an electorate. Politicians no omo they are doing their go there. and say yes na mom power so money because yen ko vote mom nti can vote mom am fire adwin dia agwa na odwen say
me to me no be kakra ansa na obi be vote am obi no me sure say be charge ni panansa because yeah omo ye campaign na omo kan sem no but omo nyanya power no wi a de waso omo ye mayet memfo no entisa so to me no minim say buy and buy be kakra nsa na be ba no
o say be kakra no o be jisika ansa we voting.
Yes, of course.
Well, he makes a point that this is something that will only be solved by vote buying because you need to, as it were, secure something from the politicians before you vote for them, because really there's no assurance that if they win power, they are going to do what they promise to do. And for him, he is predicting that in a not so distant future, citizens would request monetary, compensation before they vote for politicians. I don't know what you think about that, but the gentleman here doesn't agree at all. While I was talking to him, he made a point that me no nya drink crap. Boss, also when any nya drink crap, because politicians they enye they are more promising, and very soon, yes, you be this cancer na e vote am.
The entire America men nya drink say. Said ye tie bia aban bi ba obeye bibi wo de yemfa ayi free SHS kra abey me say me ba kobi so 3 times na 3 years na mentua fees na 9 times me tua fees anka me tua be 5,000 so what you say but because of vote me to ye nti e na ma manya sa benefit no me say me sika eka 2 microfinances e local 2014 2015. But this government buy, says can be doing Mensaka. It's about one day. There is a benefit, but it will not go for everybody. And you don't have to say it don't have to be a personal benefit. If you do so, then you are a selfish person. Yeah.
Thank you. So he makes a point that indeed there are benefits really from every regime that comes through elections, and even though some of these benefits might not be relative to every individual, generally there are some benefits that come through. I don't know what you think, but they've been reacting to the NDC's yet to be launched manifesto and picking out a few of the things therein and sharing their thoughts on that. And so as we build up to the official launch of the NDC's manifesto from Kokomlemle here in Accra, my name is Manuel Krante. Gifty, over to you.
Very much, Manuel Kranting there, interacting with some voters there. You hear them talk a lot, focus more on the Okada promise and then what's going to happen or what the NDC is promising to do in education. You also hear a bit of apathy. There are people who say, well, the politicians are the same. NPP, NDC, they are the same. They joke with our heart. Evans, you have those people there. Okada seems to be a very interesting point of discussion in this election, as well as education.
It is. I mean, because if you consider that Okada has become one of the prime means of transportation for people, creates a lot of jobs for people as well, you see why it's important. It's important to a lot of people. Right now, all you need to do is to find some small amount of money if you're out of job and get a motorbike. And then you have work to do. So I see why I see why the NDC is going in. I see why it will resonate with the masses. But again, if you look at the NDC, they're going to their roots. I mean, this is the kind of demographic that they appeal to. Okay, so the poor guy, the masses, the guy in your typical back of a motorbike riding, not a guy who sits in a air-conditioned vehicle.
Yeah.
I mean, so they're appealing to that base, and which is something that they should do, and they're doing, and that's what is resonating with people. And
I remember traveling to the Nigerian-Benin border, and in Benin, it's a
you're behind Okada? You're on Okada?
Oh, I've been on Okada several times.
Really? Yeah, in Accra.
I mean, not. Here in Accra, not here in Accra. In the northern region, where being on the motor, exactly. And then in Benin, and I'm saying in Benin, it is business. In Benin, they have the what over here will be the Accra mayor, or you have the district or the municipal assembly. They regulate it. That's how it's done. So they have uniforms and they have numbers tagged on the uniforms as well. That's how it's done. There was a story.
Been on Okada before.
Right. There was a story as well that Tilly brought, Matilda Wemega brought from Rwanda. So there are very interesting perspectives to the issue about Okada. But let's take a look and try and wrap up their promises. The 20 promises we're looking at. I think we got to number 12. So Mr. Mahama is promising to abolish the mandatory national service and obnoxious licensure exams for teacher trainees and restore the automatic employment of teacher trainee graduates. Another very
well, I see where they're going
sticky
with
issue.
Yeah.
Okay, and you recall that there have been, protests or picketing after picketing at the various ministries as well over some of these things. 13 is to restore the automatic employment of nursing trainee graduates. So you get a lot of the politicians trying to win the hearts of nurses as well. And also number 14, to restore the distribution of free cocoa fertilizer and chemicals to cocoa farmers to boost cocoa yield and improve the welfare of cocoa farmers. That's another area.
Yeah, of course. That's another area that it was worth looking at. When they were in government, the NDC under John Mahama, they put a lot of effort into giving cocoa free fertilizers to farmers. In fact, that is as a result of that we saw the controversy that led to the prosecution of the cocoa board boss,
yes.
Mr. Pudding and others. And Mr. Agungu as well, who were all accused of, sort of exploiting the free fertilizer scheme, etc. I mean, this government changed the policy slightly. He says he wants to restore it. I mean, again, the question becomes, if the accusations that have been leveled are true, how do you build into the free cocoa policy integrity measures? So you don't go back to what it used to be, where possibly, allegedly, it was exploited for the benefit of others and not the farmers themselves.
And you know that cocoa farmers, they are in their masses, and there's always this complaint that even though they do a lot of the hard work, they are the least, beneficial when it comes to the chain. So another interesting one. Then let's wrap it up. I think we have 5 more to go. Complete the Eastern Corridor roads, dualize the Aflao, Cape Coast and Kumasi roads, among others. Now Cape Coast is up here again, Evans, and you remember Cape Coast.
And MPP has something similar to also dualize. I mean, that dualization of Accra Kumasi has been ongoing for a long time. John Kufuor started it. I mean, if you travel on it, recently I did, you see that huge portions of it that has already been dualized, but it's not all the way. So I guess that's a point that he's making. This current government also has a plan to do so. So it's a competition of ideas on some very common issues.
And you see a scramble for the heart of Cape Coast, as the NPP is saying we want to give you an airport.
And a port.
Okay, let's finish up. We're number 16, complete all abandoned or uncompleted hospital and health projects, educational projects, road projects, and other infrastructural projects in the country. And that is a place where the NDC cannot, absolve itself of blame also of what it inherited from the previous NPP administration and whether or not it was able to finish those ones. 17 is to punish corruption and end the practice of nepotism. We've heard him say, talk about Operation Sting. Again, corruption is going to be a key issue, as always has been in the elections. Okay, train, remunerate, and empower assembly members to be responsible for the local level administration, registration of births and deaths in their electoral areas to improve the National Population Register. Promise number 19, to legalize and regulate Okada business, which we just talked about. And finally, 30% female appointees in the next government. The previous NDC administration actually had a 40% target, which they didn't meet. And Evans, I don't know if the NPP administration, has made any strides that the NDC could not make when it comes to female representation. Of course, it seems to have a lot more women.
Yeah, I mean, but that's a key thing. Both parties keep promising, but under-delivering when it comes to affirmative action. I mean, this current government has talked about the passage of the affirmative action bill as one of the things that they will do. But this promise gives a bit more practical actualization of that promise, except that the track record of the NDC when it comes to this matter, it's shaky, because as you rightly mentioned, their previous manifesto, they had said they will do this and give 40%. They obviously didn't achieve that, and reality check are setting, and so now that they are promising it again, they move it down to 30. But my question is, if you failed to do it previously when you had the opportunity, what's the guarantee that you can do it now? It's a fair question to ask when you look at the person's track record.
And perhaps it's because they realize the capacity they have when it comes to fulfilling that particular promise. And so they reviewed it, but it's up to them to really break it down and get the acceptability of Ghanaians. Evans, thank you so much for coming through. So the clock is still ticking. There's what, about 30 minutes to go? And 30 minutes, Evans Mester, Winston Amwa, MFA Apau, Daniel Dazi will be here to bring you up to speed on what's happening at the UPSA. Right now, though, we're crossing over there to find out what's happening. As you can see, in your screens, the grounds are already prepared, and the NDC is ready to tell you what the alternatives are. Well, first of all, we'll bring you today's voters' voice. We'll take you to East Legon here in Accra to find out from the residents what will inform their decision.
Say about to the me share my dream. Obiana na dream because Ghana ha yen ntum man na Akufo-Addo. And as yen yaso ntum NDC. So obiana na dream. To my dream share them the NDC. And I say papa Muhammad and me to amano. Me won gina so. Because me kurum fante brana papa me Fantini, pardon me Fantini. Me Fantini at Amres in the Baname. I'm used to proud with my at Amres in the Minimum away in Kurum because now we are lack of so many things in our villages. Bra at Amres Bayano, but if I say in Sunni school now that Adina Kolana, Senomco school in Subiamunum Sumpone, it was very bad. During the at Amres time, you know. But to me, I didn't know my friends and Akufo-Addo source. We say a friend say at Amres never the chase and baby. Why can I not fail to vote for him? Intimidate the NDC and me to man. Me NDC.
Oh, dabi. Ah, te say na me bra ikan. Free SHS, sabi ono onko free SHS ni bi. Na mum o say amanfo say free SHS kan ni mbotum. Okay, ya discuss be show botum. Na say free SHS ni wa. O ma me no papa be frɛ we kura say, "Hey, kwaku yes, if you are not school admission fee 15,500 1,002. Then that's kind of best obotomun. Yes, in some way be but me doing say scan be show botom. That's a buy now fan you maybe a anto to fe mebema ye ho ha scan be show botom kra be sen akọ. Nti omo muka say we first can show botom first can show botom no. Me nti o mase. So what I say? Afanisa bandits can be show botom. Na say one friend say unua no benu omo wanya school so omo kwa. So omo friend say fast scan ya san bitu. Nti scan be show botom no. E me show botom here. Nti the other be show botom no say scan e show botom na wo force ya unya ne ye friend say faculty school fees here. Nti in that way we are discussing botom indirectly. Ay brother. To aso no po experience TOASO to aso capital letters #JoyNews.
Masa yes NDC me MPP me CPP say yes NDC MPP ya jam I me no an my we bia the sense man yes because the courier first equal school ngola to continue school full of the whole term and the back at be so being continue school be say a friend say 3 good 3 months no matter if you say 4 months now on corner now matter if yeah but now we say education you don't know what is education somehow can now when them say friends at school now am here na free education go do me be friends and 2.5 months not if so when Vavara say man almost showing and him say a friends here to me finish him and so say friends no free education or school for the full of the term into no into but still now as at now and what that means say what one massa and if you say 3 months 4 months what now they can go school up now as my mechanic on the power say the mouth fees see on cra and mobile school. The school free education was one per me chance man because free crowd to me no interest can go to Kobe education band pa because free crowd no no between Kobe na e be twesika
free kura we bantimi go ni betesika e po no kase gegegege no dia bedafo no na sampa meka asama na free kura le banko bi ne betesika we to ko bi e dia free no dia meka sa anya ade na free ya to aso mo nana mo 4 years nana
Yeah, me free education me bank bi ba good. Me bank free education bi but because me anu mba ene me sisters mba na de first no na kakra bako ba sisi anu omo ya den omo go school free the free education but abana e beto ne de anu de wo ye 3 months ana tam ne be so nti ye kokodu a o da bi ya be sesem ye ntum ntu aso sa sa me ye fantini nti o se ade wo fi oye nti me kwa commissar me fantini pure ade wo fi oye nti na me se o se sesem
dia papa ka se dia me papa ne ka se ade wo fi oye na nya bibia na e wo fi oye e bo he dan betimi aba fi obepo because dia ye keka kona ye dide bia me nyamere no ndi ofa enye go papa panyimu ti fie na sa obekire nkwala ade kula enye mere wade esa o kire yade pa cause amere no o kwa fa me yire kula so because enche bia mbenyeska de kwa fa me yire so dia enya papa.
Well, so if you're doing the countdown together with us, it's 91 days more to the December polls. Politicians across the divide are wasting no time, leaving no stone unturned to ensure that their messages are being heard, especially by the grassroots. Take a look at this rap on the major political parties in this country.
It was a battle for the hearts and minds of the people of two regions in the north, the Upper West and Northern regions, by candidates who were sons of the soil. NDC flag bearer John Mahama took his campaign to the Upper West region, whilst Vice President Mahmoud Bawumia headed to the Northern region.
I know that when it comes to a matter of trust, and it comes to a matter of track record comparison, there's no doubt in my mind that NDC will win the 20.
Mental and inexplicable waste of taxpayer resources.
In Kumasi, wife of the Vice President, Samira Bawumia, also seized the opportunity to lash out at the former president, saying a vote against the NPP was an endorsement of retrogression.
NDC came to power and messed up this. The power crisis came to live with us. They messed everything up. God sent Nana Akufo-Addo to redeem us, and we are not going back to the past.
And speaking of wives, former First Lady Nana Kunejo-Agyemang-Rawlings was acclaimed as flag bearer by members of her party, the National Democratic Party, at its National Delegates Congress.
Each member within the NDP should be able to identify a good person that can get into parliament.
The issue of tribal politics took center stage this weekend after President Akufo-Addo called out his predecessor for sharing comments that described the Ejapa deal as an Achim Sakawa project.
The comment made by my opponent, Achim Sakawa people, I've not heard any public figure in this country, independent, yourselves or anybody, comment on it. It's completely unacceptable.
This was Mr. Mahama's response.
He was an opposition leader who called presidents before him anything you can imagine, including Professor Doolittle. He's a president who has called his critics naysayers and Jeremiahs.
Vice President demanded an apology from the NDC flag bearer, insisting his posture was alien to their northern culture.
We will continue to call on John Mahama to apologize unreservedly for what he has endorsed. Unreservedly. This election is going to be fought on our records, not on tribalism.
We're taking a very quick break here. We'll be back when we return. We have more political stories for you as we get up for the NDC's Manifesto launch, which is in less than 30 minutes. Welcome back to the show. We're building up to the NDC's Manifesto launch, which is happening live at the UPSA. JoyNews has a team right there on the ground. There will be a team here in the studio right now, though. My colleague Aflao, member of our team there, is joining us from the UPSA. He's been talking to some people there. Sincere apologies for that. We're still working on the ground to get you that video and sound. You saw the former Deputy Information Minister there speaking to MFA Apa. We'll be listening to that shortly. Right now, though, I want to hear from you. What are your expectations as we get ready to hear the NDC's alternative as it is presenting to us as a choice against the NPP? WhatsApp me on 0540109009. My name is Gifty Andopia. We're still here on the pulse. We're gearing up to hear from the NDC. But I want to hear from you. We've heard a lot of people say, you know, get excited about the Okada promise. We've heard people talk about education and about the fact that Mr. Mahama says he will abolish the double track system. People say, what will you do to those students who are already in the system? I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts? You've had also a bit of apathy where people have said that we're tired of the NDC, we're tired of the NDC and the MPP altogether. We're voting for a group like the Ghana Union Movement, or we're voting for the CPP, for example. What is your own version of that story? You're not supposed to call the number. Just send me a WhatsApp and I'll read it and share it with the rest of the world. Evans Mensah is getting ready to come in the studio to take over from me. Winston Amwa, deputy head of our political desk, will be here as well. They have all of the analysis and we will make it very interactive. We'll be talking to you, and that's why I want to hear from you right now on our WhatsApp platform. Let's take a look at some of the promises that Mr. Mahama has put out there already. But already some of you are texting me whilst I go to the message, to the promises that Mr. Mahama has made. Let me read to you some of the messages I'm receiving. And if you can see the number right there on your screen, do not call it. I'm seeing a lot of you calling the number. Do not call it, because when you do, it interrupts with my ability to read for you what I'm seeing on the WhatsApp platform. So do not do that. This one doesn't add his name, but he says they don't have anything proper to say. Okay. We'll see how that goes. We have less than, well, maybe in the next 10 minutes or so to go and hear from them. And then we'll hear what they say. This one says, for me, the National Democratic Congress has nothing good in their manifesto for Ghanaians. You don't add your name as well. It'd be good to add your name so we know who is texting us. This one is Anand. Mr. Anand, you're texting from Tema. You say, I like the legalization of the Okada business. Thank you very much for sending your message. But why? Do you have any reason why you like it? You think it's a great idea? It will boost the economy? What is it? Let me know that as well. This is from Achu. Achu says, Achu Wedi from Pando. It says, NDC has good plans for Ghana. Thank you for that message. This one says, JM is not an alternative anymore. Willie Wise is sending that from Tamale. Let's take a look at some of the promises. I'm going to do the next, your messages are trickling in really quickly. So I'm just going to let me do the first two. Okay, let's take a look at the first two promises. Okay. So there is that promise for you on the screen. But let me take some more messages here. Aziz Starboy from Bole as the hometown of the NDC flag bearer himself. You say, Aziz, you say the NDC is the best party in Ghana, are waiting for nothing but the best from their camp. Okay, so it looks like a lot of you are very eager and ready and sitting by your television waiting. Don't worry, here at JoyNews, it is your election headquarters. Okay, now the messages are coming too quickly. I can't focus on which one to read to you. But like I said, let me go quickly to the first promise that we have on our list here. Mr. Mahama is promising to pay all customers of the collapsed financial institutions whose monies have been stuck or locked up in full, and he's looking to restore indigenous Ghanaian participation in the financial sector. Listen to one of the key people who have been speaking for him, Phyllis Kwachu-Fosu.
It's only a matter of an hour or two before the program kicks off. So there's merit in keeping some form of this suspense. So endure it for a while, but not too long from now, the program will start. And you will see what exactly it is that the NDC has to offer.
Okay, so it appears we are going to be heavy on jobs and prosperity for all, for jobs, prosperity and more, from what I've seen in the auditorium so far. But it looks like we've counted up to about, what, 20 promises? Are there more?
No, there are about 60 of them. Indeed, President Mahama started speaking about this sometime in November 2019. So it's been almost a year since he started speaking about his policy positions. Of course, he has said quite clearly that a major thrust of his presidency, God willing, from 2021 to 2025 would be about jobs. It is perhaps one of the biggest, if not the biggest, socioeconomic problem that we have in Ghana at the moment, especially amongst the youth who form an overwhelming majority of our population. So any government that wants to gain acceptance amongst the people of Ghana must be able to show credible programs that will lead to job creation. And I'm talking sustainable jobs, not ad hoc knee-jerk measures that are only designed to, as it were, fix the, address the problem in a half-hearted manner. But we want to go for substantive solutions. And that is what you can expect from the NDC when we speak about jobs.
Well, we'll wait and see how it unfolds. And I'm sure that after that, already you've heard the opposition say that some of what is going to be contained in the manifesto were stolen from them. I'm sure these are some of the things.
The NPP is known for its ridiculousness. The levels to which they've sunk is staggering. I cannot believe that a party that is in government can be so obscurantic in its commentary on political affairs. It's almost like child's play. I think that the business of governance must be taken seriously, and the people of Ghana deserve governments that are serious. At the moment, they have not demonstrated that seriousness. Perhaps it adds on to the many reasons why they should be kicked out in earnest. No voter should accept this sort of ridiculous narrative from any party, let alone the party that is in power. We have not stolen a thing. We do not need any lectures from the MPP on how to write a manifesto. We have won 4 out of 7 elections, and he says something about our own effectiveness and how to mobilize towards an election.
But what is it really about UPSA? You outdored your running mate here, and today it appears you are launching your manifesto here as well. Anything special about the UPSA?
Well, I mean, you would agree that it's a very convenient and nice auditorium. There's nothing special about it. We just decided to do it in Accra, and it was one of the venues that was readily available, so we picked it. It is not a case that there's anything. I must, however, admit that it's a very remarkable venue, very nicely done, and a place where such an auspicious occasion is well and truly held.
We're grateful, sir. We'll get to talk again, I'm sure, after the launch of the manifesto. We're still at the venue here at the UPSA, and all is set, like you can see from the background, the launch of the NDC's manifesto. And we're told that it will be on for jobs, prosperity, and more. That's what it looks like. And I've been joined also, once again, by Mr. Kwame Agboja. And he represents the minority on the Transport Committee of Roads and Transport Committee of Parliament. And thankfully, he joins us today. Thank you very much for your time here on the JoyNews channel. I'm sure you're as excited as the others that we've interacted with.
Extremely excited because this day would mark a new beginning of our party's journey to regain power and to bring about leadership that can be trusted and that can deliver to the people of this country. So I'm very excited knowing what the anticipation is because this manifesto, as we've said, is people's manifesto. It's not a manifesto of NDC. It's a manifesto for the people of this country, not about NDC. It's about us, all of us. So I'm excited that we're going to produce a document that represents the aspirations of the people of this country.
But what's really new? Some have said that everything else, we've seen it before, we've heard it before. What's really new this time?
Well, have you ever heard a government say we can generate 250,000 jobs yearly for 4 years consistently, minimum? No, I don't think you've heard that from anybody. Have you heard anybody say that we are going to provide primary health care up to district hospital level, i.e., you do not have to pay for that service from the CHIP compound to the district hospital level. You do not have to produce a health insurance card and your card is expired so you can't be part of it. Have you ever heard that before? I don't think you've ever heard that before. Have you ever heard government deciding to set aside about $10 billion to do what we call the infrastructure push, to actually complete existing abandoned projects and to critically address the imbalances in terms of social infrastructure in this country? I don't think you've ever heard that before. Have you ever heard a government, a party about to form a government, actually give a commitment that we will not form an elephant-sized government to waste resources, but we are determined to cut the coat according to our sizes, to reduce the size of government by at least 40? I think you haven't heard that before. So I think there's a lot of things that you'll be hearing which you've never heard before.
So it appears that the NDC is on a promising spree for some. It appears that anything for the party to come to power. You said you had spoken to the people. Is this what the people said they wanted?
Yes, loud and clear. As we speak, in front of Ghana's parliament, there's an Okada joint. There are motorcycles conducting a business. If you go to Adaklu today, maybe the nurse and the teacher, the policeman going to work in Adaklu would have to use Okada. We know, yes, LI 2180 prohibits that. We are saying that where we have gotten to, we need to take a second look at that law and deal with it. That is from the people. We are not on a promising spree. We are not like the NPP who goes promising, for instance, airport in Cape Coast, when the president says, I'm not sure, the vice president says you are going to get it, when there's one that has been built lying down in Ho, which is not being used. We have proven over the period that when we say things, we mean them and we'll do them. And we'll back this with figures and everything for you to see today. So we, unlike NPP, is not our competitors in terms of ideas. We think they are completely bankrupt in terms of ideas, and we believe that the aspirations of the people is a better set of views to propose as policies rather than comparing ourselves to the NPP.
I don't know how different today's program will be from what we've seen in terms of the other manifesto launches of the party, but do you have an idea how the process is going to be like today?
You can confess that when it comes to presentation, no party does it better than us, as a matter of fact. It's not about presentation without substance. Presentation that conveys the message right to the people. When you look on the board, when we talk about infrastructure, we're going to try to make you understand what it means by that. When we talk about being able to do this, create 1 million jobs, we will be able to tell you how we are going to do that. Unlike 2016, when MPP was even talking about free SHS, and even on BBC he was asked, the current president was asked, he mentioned a very paltry figure. They never provided the sources of funding of free SHS until they got into government. We will be able to suggest to you where we'll be getting the funding for many of the things we are going to do. So you're going to see a different style in terms of presentation, and then we are very sure that the people of this country will be excited to have hope. And at the end of the day, it's about who do you trust? A person who takes power for 4 years and is now doing sword cutting in your community, or a person who has already delivered and up to a point before we left power, and we are just coming to continue doing what we have been delivering for you, unlike a party who is now cutting sword after 3 years, nothing to show. I think that is what we're going to see.
We're grateful for your time. I'm sure we'll get to interact right after the launch of the manifesto itself. We get details. Already, we're getting a snippet of what exactly is going to happen in terms of what is contained in the document.